Why is Jesus returning a second time? I'm Sam Millen, and I'm an Adventist pastor in the Pacific Northwest. Do you like weddings? Over the years, I've had the privilege of officiating at numerous weddings. I remember one where the couple rented a huge church and filled it with their family and friends. It was a joyous occasion, and to get from the church to the restaurant where the reception would be held, they decided to ride in a horse-drawn carriage. Very romantic. Now, the restaurant was some distance from the church, and the team of horses pulling the carriage had to be swapped out halfway and replaced by a second team of horses to get the happily married couple the rest of the way to the restaurant. Another time, I was awake late at night watching the Olympics when I got a text. "Pastor, we are going ahead. Please meet us at the courthouse tomorrow morning." Well, I grabbed some notes from a previous wedding I had done and met this couple at the courthouse the next morning. And I actually made a mistake because during the exchange of the vows, I used the name of the groom in my notes instead of the actual groom standing next to me. And thankfully, he thought it was hilarious. No pressure at all. When Jesus told his disciples in John chapter 14, "Do not let your hearts be troubled, neither let them be afraid," let's pay attention to what Jesus is saying. Are our hearts troubled? Are we afraid by what's going on around us, what's happening in the world today, what the future may hold? Well, Jesus says to his disciples, the reason not to let our hearts be troubled or afraid is because in his Father's house there are many mansions, is what the King James Version translates that word to be. And it ignites our imaginations of living in a huge mansion on a hilltop. But actually, a better translation would be rooms, or there's enough room in my Father's house. I'm thankful to a Bible teacher by the name of Ray Vanderlaan, who takes groups to the Holy Land and records video teachings at different locations. And during this particular video teaching, they are standing amongst the archaeological ruins of a housing complex where you had a couple living in a home, which we would think of more like a room, with a courtyard in front with an open fire for cooking, and perhaps where the animals would be kept, and a wall around the complex to keep the family and the animals safe at night. And then once their oldest son was ready to get married, they would perhaps meet with a family of a bride-to-be in another village nearby, and the two families would negotiate on a bride price. And once they came to an agreement on a bride price, they would celebrate together with a glass of wine, and the couple were then engaged or betrothed to one another. And then the groom would say something like this to his bride: "Don't worry, in my Father's house there's lots of room, or there are many rooms. I'm going there to prepare a place for you, so that once I prepare a place for you, I can return, I can come back and take you to be with me so that you'll be where I am." Now in Revelation chapter 19, we see John in vision, and I'm going to read from verse 6. Revelation chapter 19, starting in verse 6, John tells us, from the island of Patmos, "Again, I heard what sounded like a vast crowd, like the noise of rushing water and deep roars of thunder. And they cried, 'Alleluia, the Lord our God, sovereign over all, has entered on his reign. Exult and shout for joy and do him homage.' Why? For the wedding day of the Lamb has come." The marriage supper of the Lamb. In the New Testament, the metaphor is Christ as our groom and we, the church, as the bride. When the groom told his bride he would return, she didn't know when that would take place, when there would be a trumpet sound, the ram's horn, the shofar. Perhaps in a village when they heard a ram's horn blast, a number of young women would think, is this my wedding day? She was to be ready at any time. And we are the bride of Christ. We are to be ready for our groom at any time. And then Revelation 19 continues, his bride has made herself ready, and for her dress she has been given fine linen, clean and shining. Now the fine linen signifies the righteous deeds of God's people. You see, we, the bride, Paul says, we are as one who has been bought with a price. The price was the sacrifice of Jesus, his blood. And his sacrifice cleanses us from our sins. And that is why we can wear a dress as the bride that is white and beautiful and shining. We have been saved not only from sin, but we have been saved for the good works that God does through us. And our dress is shining because of the sacrifice of Jesus for our salvation. We are bought with a price. Then going back to Revelation 19, the angel said to me, says John, write this, happy are those who are invited to the wedding supper of the Lamb. And he added, these are the very words of God. Do you like weddings? Well, this wedding will be like no other. And there's enough room in the Father's house. In the New Jerusalem, there are many rooms. And once we look at Revelation 20, we see that there is going to be a time period of 1,000 years when we'll be with Christ in the Father's house in the New Jerusalem. And at the end of that 1,000 years, we go to Revelation 21. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had vanished, and there was no longer any sea. Now I need to mention this for my friends who are marine biologists. There's going to be room for the orcas and all the beautiful fish. The sea in the Jewish mindset represented evil and chaos and turmoil. That's all going to be gone after the 1,000 years. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God, made ready like a bride, adorned for her husband. We're all in the New Jerusalem coming down to this earth. And so this is the third coming of Jesus to the earth, the third arrival or advent of Christ after the 1,000 years. I heard a loud voice proclaiming from the throne, now at last God has his dwelling among men. He will dwell among them, and they shall be his people, and God himself will be with them. He will wipe every tear from their eyes. There shall be an end to death and to mourning and crying and pain, for the old order has passed away. Then he who sat on the throne said, behold, I am making all things new. And he said to me, write this down, for these words are trustworthy and true. And I believe these words are indeed trustworthy and true. And I'm looking forward to the wedding feast, to the marriage supper of the Lamb when Christ returns to claim his bride.